Hey there guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be having a chat about a game called AI War 2. Now, this is going to be all over the place. I mean, my rants normally are all over the place, but look, we'll front load my sort of early impressions and thoughts, almost verdict I guess, just from a couple of hours play. That's what I do with these videos if you haven't seen one before. And in the back, we try to have an intelligent discussion that's generally spurred on from, you know, the experience with this particular game and whatever questions that it has raised. Look, at the outset, I would say, like, objectively, I suppose, this is actually a pretty good game. I'll give you a bit of a rundown on what it is. Essentially, it is a grand strategy. I wouldn't go calling it a 4X because it stripped out a lot of the cornerstones of a 4X, but yet it sort of thematically takes place over an entire galaxy of lots of planets. So I can see how you'd stray into that territory, but be careful if that's what you're coming here looking for, because this is essentially a very combat heavy, almost, it has a chess vibe to me, which is a really weird sort of comparison, but we'll go into it. Essentially, it is a 1v1 competition. It's you versus the AI. In this case, the AI is an actual AI faction as well, and it seems they've put a lot of effort into making an evolving, reactionary sort of, if you poke the bear too hard kind of AI, it will slap you really hard back. And the core conceit of the loop is that the entire essentially play space, galaxy, whatever you want to call it, is already taken over and occupied by the AI. And you have one planet and a crappy little start, and you need to go along your branching paths to different planets neighboring and decide whether you're going to start shit there, take over the planet, maybe kill some things, whatever. But as you progress and as you take territory, the AI becomes more aware of you. In fact, there is a statistic that acts as a bit of a doom timer, and that sort of gives you a gauge of how much you've upset the AI and how much effort he is now going to put into crushing you. It's a very cool idea. I was going to say gimmick, and I'm still sitting on the fence there. I'm not trying to be disparaging, but essentially that's what this is about. This is about you versus this AI, and you're sort of almost covertly running around and poking and prodding. Now, it plays well, it works well. From what I understand, it's been in early access for a while. The development team, or the guys developing it, seem to be pretty good at engaging with their community, and they've built a little bit of a following from the first game and through that as well. So, just so we're clear, my time with this makes me think, yep, it seems pretty solid. And look, if you were already going to get this, you've already got it, because it is in such a niche genre that I doubt that you wouldn't know about this if you were already sort of like a big Stellaris sort of fanboy, a big 4Xer, that sort of thing. So I wouldn't be needing to pitch to you, but I'd more talk to the casual audience, the fair weather guys, which I'm sort of part of as well. I like my Stellaris, I like my 4X. I didn't really know about this game until the devs reached out and got me onto it, and I can see that it's trending fairly well on Steam as well. So that's sort of my verdict at the front, okay? It's good, especially if you're in that sort of genre, if you're into that sort of niche. If you're not, this isn't going to win you over, right? I'm not going to try and steer you away to Stellaris. I use that as the poster child because that is, if you are sort of, you know, an angry super 4X guy that wants to get upset at me for saying that, I would offer you to think about the perspective of what I'm saying. Stellaris is the jumping in point, mainstream bridging gap for most people in 4X. Civ 6 as well, but I think I should clarify that I'm talking about in a space capacity. I suppose if you want to go pure 4X, Civ 6 is the one, the big daddy that people probably know about. Okay, so we've got that out of the way. Now you can tell the way that I'm coming across, I can even tell in my own energy that I am fence city about this game. I have some issues, I have some reservations, okay? So if you came here for a review or whatever, you can go away now. If you're here for us to have a chat about the gaming industry at large and the implications of this game's existence, follow me on an opinionated sort of rabbit hole. We'll unpack a few things. Okay, so herein are my thoughts I do first impressions on the channel. I play for a couple of hours and I give you sort of my feedback. I find myself to be a bit of a broken record because I am constantly harping the point that if I give you the video game, right, just bear with me. If I give you the video game 2 hours of my time and you can't elevator pitch me, like I'm not giving you 15 seconds, I'm giving you 2 full hours. And if you can't, in that 2 hours, go, here's what the game's about, grab me with a hook, get me engaged, create a scenario where I want to come back and play it. If you can't do that with a whole 2 hours in the current year, 2019, where 10 good games come out every day, then I'm sorry, you don't really deserve my time. I don't think that's an unreasonable position to hold. I think the fact that we have a glut, again, sounds disparaging, but we'll go with glut. We have a glut of indie games. They're not all shovelware. There's plenty of shovelware out there, but ever since the indie game explosion through like Microsoft Arcade, we have so many essentially choices all the time. We have too many games to play, and I know it's a first world problem, but I actually think this is something that modern game design and production needs to truly factor in. And some games don't do it, and this sort of genre by extension doesn't. So to give you an idea, I played through like a 45-minute tutorial of this to try and figure out what's going on. I still feel overwhelmed, and then I played a couple of hours of the game. Well, I get it, I do, but my walk away from the table was like, okay, this seems alright. This seems like the combat portion of a Stellaris or a Sins of the Solar Empire, I suppose, if you can remember that far back. It's not 4X because there's no real economy. It's stripped out. The economy in this is two like resources, metal and power, and you essentially, as you take over a planet, you decide what kind of base you're going to put on that planet, and that affects how defended it is and how much income it comes in. All right, I don't want to have an argument about, oh no, there's still depth compared to what you expect from a 4X. This is nothing, right? This is just a tiny little crawl along through territories and place down markers to give you a little bit of income. The heart of this is about an AI that is evolving to the way that you're behaving and fighting, and he's trying to poke and prod and cause trouble, and you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. It is unique, it's interesting, but I come away going, all right, look, you've taken 3/4 an hour of my time to tutorialize. You've taken a couple of hours for me to sort of get the ropes, and I'm coming away lukewarm going, okay, no, I get it. I get what you're doing. It's very clever. Good for you. But it's just not enough. It's not enough in this modern day. So that's why I said, and I'm not trying to enrage the fanboys, because good for them, and nothing comes of you coming at me and being negative and upset for me having a dissenting opinion. Not that I need to be defensive. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. But I just wonder, with this sort of game, apart from your dedicated fan base that behave like me, that seek out specific games and really dig, like I think a lot of people that are fans of this game, they had to dig to find it. Surely they had to go looking, they had to go sniffing, because this is not going to bring new people in. This is not going to transition a I don't play 4X kind of guy across into the genre. So again, I told you this rant was going to be all over the place because it is doing my head in that it's an okay game. It's not bad, but it's certainly not blowing me away fantastic. And I think the bar is shifting these days. That like it's just got to be the case of, well, I don't know. Let's think about the statistics, right? If you have an not exponentially larger sort of base of games to pick from, but if your pool is way bigger than it was, say, 20 years ago, you know, you'd play Battletoads, one of the most broken crap games of all time, but everyone has nostalgia for it. But we suffered through it because it's all you could afford. That's all that there was. You know, it was only a handful of choices. So you gave it a pass. Or at least the barrier to entry, or the bar of if it's worth my time or not, was definitely lower. So that's what I'm sort of getting at. I feel that it does sound prudish and rough, but sometimes good isn't good enough. Because there is just so many other games out there worthy of my time. The other thing is, this type of genre, it demands, you know, you sit there and play it for 8 hours a day, you know, big 40-hour play session sort of thing. That's just the sort of style. And I have my concerns when you're trying to make an entry into it against the established big guns. It's just a thought. I'm not bashing on the genre. I'm not against it. Again, I don't mind some 4X, but I just feel, and it's not even 4X specifically, like sometimes you have these games that just bloat out their side quests and dilute their gameplay to be a 40-hour experience, when, to be perfectly honest, you should have just made it a 3-hour game and I'd have played it and enjoyed it and moved on to the next thing. It's all very strange, but the point, if I circle back around, is that this game demands a huge investment up front and a suspension of, not suspension of disbelief, but like, you have to make a deal with yourself and go that your gratification delay is going to be like 5 hours before you start going, oh, okay, cool. And the thing is, if you walk up to Joe Blogg's average gamer, majority gamer, like, and again, I'm not coming at the guys that are hardcore fans for this sort of thing, but if you come at Joe Blogs and say, all right, this game is pretty cool and there's something to it, but you're going to have to invest, you know, half a dozen hours before you start getting anywhere, before you start not even being confused. I honestly think most normal people, you know, they're working 9 to 5, they've got a hard job that they've got to think about. It's going to be a hard sell to get them to invest in something like this, which is essentially another friggin' job. And again, that's something I wouldn't mind talking about in another video at some point, is some of these games, like the EVE Onlines and all that, I would love to know the statistics on the people that get right into them, that become really hardcore and they treat it like a 9 to 5 job. I'm like, what's going on in your personal life? I'm not trying to have a go, but I feel like for you to derive pleasure from that, I almost feel like your professional life is not doing you justice, the individual. You know, you're not being challenged or anything like that. I'm not necessarily saying that you're a lazy, unemployed bum. You might be in a job that's just not doing any good. And I'm not here for life advice or anything like that, but it always made me wonder what the gravitation was to the super, super hardcore investment, long burn games was that are less fun and more just menial work, and I wonder if they're trying to replace something in their life. That said, I sit somewhere in between because I have a sort of STEM mathematical engineering mind myself, so I do like games with some management components, but I hop around from game to game. Anyway, this one was meandering a fair bit. I'm well aware of that because I don't have a real solid, strict point other than I worry about games like this. I wish it the best of success, I really do. But I feel like if you're going to Shark Tank these sort of games at the table of hungry gamers who have a bazillion other choices that are doing really good work, I just wonder if what you have here is enough to sort of fill those numbers and have like positive sort of growth. But anyway, just a thought. Let me know what you guys think. I'm always happy to engage and hear what you've got to say, but we might just leave it there and I'll catch you guys on the next one.